Shalom, family. All praises to the Most High Yah. We give you glory and honor. Holy, holy, holy is Yah Almighty, who was and is to come. We give you glory. I pray the viewers may be blessed by the hearing of your word and this teaching in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Shalom, family, and welcome to Live Light Well and into All Truth. So today I want to talk a little bit about chemtrails because right now a lot of people are looking at fasting, and you can check out my fasting videos on my landing page of my channel, and I'll probably do another one sometime this month. But one of the reasons why we need to fast is to get rid of the chemtrails and toxins that are in the air. So that's what this particular message is about, is what is in chemtrails and what can they actually do to our bodies? What are they actually doing to our bodies? Is there some way that this nanotech is being used to deliver some kind of payload from the human body? This video should give you more reasons why you need to come out of Babylon according to the law.
Chemtrails are really significant, especially with respect to the pineal gland.
So many of us already know about some of the devastating effects that chemtrails and toxins can have on the pineal gland. What some people suppose chemtrails are about is about Satan's effort to try and network us into his worldwide web through nanotechnology, controlling technology. So let's look into what's in chemtrails.
So chemtrails are really a very crazy, kooky combination of things. And some of these things they actually put in vaccines for children as well. And they call them, I can't remember what the term is, I'll just write it below there when I edit the video. But chemtrails have revealed a toxic mix of substances like aluminum, barium, nanoaluminum, coated fiberglass, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungal mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, polymer fibers, nanotags, or what most people refer to as Morgellons. Chemtrails are self-replicating hollow fibers. So it's really nanotechnology that's being dumped on us in addition to a lot of these toxins. That's a lot of weird stuff. They can emit an electromagnetic radio signal that can kind of geotag us, but also kind of know what we're thinking and doing, or help to control or influence what we're doing. And of course, this is foreign to the body, all of it, and it's disease, really. So it helps to cause disease. It adds to the problem of disease. So obviously, given all the other things I've listed for you, and of course, molds are something that also cause disease, these all add to disease in the body.
So one thing you may want to consider is that the 12 tribes each had 12 stones. And throughout the Bible, Yah talks about refining us through a refiner's fire, purifying us, bringing us forth as pure gold. And Revelations 21:19 talks about the very foundations of the new Jerusalem that comes down out of heaven actually being made of the 12 stones of the 12 tribes of Israel. The foundations of the city walls were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald, the fifth onyx, sixth ruby, seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th turquoise, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. The great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. And Ezekiel 22:18 to 20 is talking about the time when Yah casts Israel out of the land and sends them into the four corners of the earth to be enslaved. And it says, "Son of man, the house of Israel to me is to me become dross. All they are brass and tin and iron and lead in the midst of the furnace. They are even the dross of silver. So we are his precious stones. Israel is Yah's precious stones who have great value. And when Ezekiel is commanded by Yah to send up a lamentation for the Prince of Tyre, who is really Hasatan, we come to learn that it is said that Hasatan walked among the stones of fire. So who are these stones of fire? What stones are purified in the fire? Well, we know that to go up to the Mount of Yah, Moshe had to pass through a fire. And that when we enter the kingdom, we will be judged as if through fire. And so what is said of Hasatan is, you have been in Eden, the garden of Yah. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardius, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. See, there's only 9 stones. And the workmanship of your timbrels and your pipes was prepared in you in the day that you were created. You are the anointed cherub that covers, and I have set you so. You were upon the holy mountain of God. You have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. So what all of this is leading up to is the question of whether or not there is some connection between Morgellons and determining who the people of Yah are by what can be harvested through Morgellons, or whether or not Morgellons is somehow a way to draw the precious stones out of some people who are manifesting these kinds of things when they get the chemtrails in their system. So here I'm just going to direct you to Sophie Smallstorm, who talks about the consequences of chemtrails and Morgellons disease on the planet, on the air, on plants, and the human body.
Metallic salts have made our air conductive. This means that we and everything around us can transmit and propagate energy. The air is no longer neutral. It no longer supports, in a healthy way, living things. The second group of materials found in these environmental samples is unidentifiable fibers. And I really want you to appreciate the meaning of unidentifiable. These fibers have been sent to sophisticated laboratories, and there's nothing in the databases that match them. So these are fibers, we could say, that do not exist in nature. People around the world are developing lesions on their skin that ooze and produce fibers. This is known as Morgellons Syndrome. Tissue samples cultured from ordinary people without this ailment contain and grow the very same fibers. The fibers or filaments are actually tubules with hollow insides. When these fibers are cultured, they produce colonies of filaments. The filament cultures can be grown from saliva samples, tissue from the skin, mucus, urine, blood, from animals and people, regardless of the presence of the Morgellons condition. The fibers are segmented with visible structures inside them. So where do these fibers or filaments come from? Airborne environmental samples that were collected by Clifford Carnicom, he's a researcher in this subject, in 2000, the year 2000, gathered at high altitude on a mountain in New Mexico, showed the presence of those fibers. whose structure matches exactly the tubular filaments. When I say fibers and filaments, basically interchangeable, showing up in our blood, tissues, and skin. Additionally, the samples collected by Mr. Carnicom showed what he calls, and was called in biology, desiccated erythrocytes. This is a multisyllabic term, but it means dried red blood cells. So, why these were in the air? Why are dried red blood cells in the air? Very puzzling. A medical microscopist, a biologist specializing in microscopy, confirmed to him that they were human red blood cells, but that they had been engineered in some way so as to be preserved. So again, you have to ask yourself, if I were 5 years old, I would say, Mommy, what are red blood cells doing falling out of the sky? Biology divides life into 3 kingdoms: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya.
Biological life is divided into 3 kingdoms: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Bacteria and archaea are simple organisms, and bacteria and archaea die in extreme heat and cold. Eukarya are complex to find self-important organisms with internal organelles like mitochondria, little factories that make energy and DNA. Plants, animals, humans, fungi, and slime are all eukaryotic. The archaea are the hardiest of all eukaryotics and are able to withstand grinding, pressure, heat, acidity, alkalinity. They can live in volcanoes, in geysers, and in the ice shelf. And these fibers coming out of people could be classified as fungus and more in the domain of eukaryotes.
These fibers contain forms from the other 2 groups inside them. We're looking at a tubular fiber with self-replicating internal elements resembling bacteria and behaving like archaea. That does not happen in the natural world. So what are they? What's going on? It appears that within our bodies we now have all 3 life kingdoms replicating themselves. What does that make us? Are we still eukaryotes, or are we becoming something else? You could call this transbiology, a crossing of biology, the creation of hybrid forms. Materials are forming in our bodies that are not native to us, not natural, and entirely new. You can see in these pictures the tubular filaments with the branches. They're branching off. That's their self-replication. They're creating new colonies. And you can also see in the bottom picture a little bud. That's the beginning of a new fiber. The territory of things on the scale of atoms and molecules is the nano world. Science has opened up the nano universe, where incredible new creations are possible. Nanotechnology explores materials that are less than a micron in size, or from 1 to 100 nanometers. And a nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. Nature and biology continually work on the nanoscale, assembling proteins and building with crystals to conduct the business of life. Spider webs are an example of that. Very fine filaments with enormous strength and flexibility because they contain nanoscale crystals. So let's go back to the filaments and the structures they contain, these ones that Clifford Carnicom has found. In those unidentifiable filaments, he has observed the formation of red blood cells and submicron-sized structures. So now you've got a filament making its own red blood cells. The engineered cells, the red blood, very, very tough, withstanding excesses of heat and chemicals, indicating that they are designed to endure almost anything. He has put them in a Bunsen flame, he has poured bleach on them, acid, and they still endure. In addition, they are able to replicate, growing outside of the body in a petri dish. This is highly sophisticated technology, going on by itself, not in a laboratory. So we're witnessing red blood growing outside, having nothing to do with the bone marrow. in a petri dish. Could it be that artificial materials are being introduced into living things? Could it be that artificial materials are being introduced into us to create new processes from the ground up, which processes will override our own natural biology, our own internal systems? People with advanced Morgellons Syndrome started with fibers coming out of their skin, and they're now observing very strange crystalline forms in metallic devices. The fibers became multicolored, and now they were accompanied by plaques, strange, hard little, almost like shards. People say they're like glass, and they're colored. The lesions keep emitting these things. They don't heal over or close, sometimes for years. Here are more plaque structures, even grooved metallic devices. On the right, you'll see one device, the front and the back. These images are supplied by Jan Smith of morgellonsexposed.com. It's her theory that when new life forms are made through this gene splicing and mutation, bioengineering and nanotechnology, they will self-replicate in all kinds of ways, creating different mutations in each generation. Morgellons specimens can sometimes be identified with the original spores before those mutations occurred. Jan found 3 varieties of something called Omycota fungus in her specimens, as well as something else called Dictyostelium discoideum, which is a slime mold that is a major player in biomedical research today. The fiber strands that you see here were made of cellulose and GNA. GNA is glucans polysaccharide sugars, and this was confirmed by microscopy. GNA is a synthetic cousin of DNA. Here's a news report from April 2008, in which we are told, big headlines, GNA is DNA's chemical cousin. It's a nanotechnology building block. The Biodesign Institute at Arizona State develops the first self-assembled nanostructures composed entirely of GNA, synthetic analog of DNA. The nanostructures contain additional properties not found in DNA, including the ability to form mirror image structures.
So this is very much like the twinning golem that is in the movie Annihilation, that speaks of the annihilation of the human body via this kind of technology. And if you look at it in the movie, it's the exact same color as this biological structure, this fiber. This is the golem that terrorizes and oppresses the character Lena in Annihilation. And this is what may happen to the Gentiles in Babylon, those who choose to stay in their sin, and those of Israel who do. The golem will take over. This is the raping of the seed of the Gentiles and the hybridization of it. This is the reaping of all the perversions of slavery. These are the crystalline structures within our new bodies if we stay.
An NIH article from Japan, on research from Japan, also tells us that various conductive polymers and gold nanoparticles are entrapped within the helical superstructure of this GNA. Now, the particular sugar found in this GNA is called beta-1,3-glucans. And here you see it under what's called a Raman spectroscope, very sophisticated equipment. It looks, the microscopist who looked at this called it a sugar snake. So this is the GNA that you're looking at. When Jan's fibers were put to a high heat flame, they would release what she calls a gold payload. So they dropped out this tiny little bead of gold. And here's more, the fibers that contain a head, she calls it a golden head, orbs, and they all have this payload in them. Here you have a nano array that she found, a couple of them in her body. And again, I'll say it again, the nano arrays are these tiny devices that are used for DNA hybridization. So, I'm going to repeat my nanotech pyramid. We begin with the emergence of basic filaments, followed by more complex structures. So what processes are going on here? Are these materials combining to form devices that are working together inside us? What is happening to our biology? And remember that tissue samples obtained from ordinary people who have no Morgellons symptoms, no lesions, can be cultured to produce the very same filaments found in people with Morgellons. So we would have to conclude that Morgellons is like the canary in the coal mine, and that only some people are exuding the materials. And could that be because their bodies are rejecting it, while our bodies are integrating it?
So my recording's not very good, but she goes on to say here that these are plaques that are being expelled by people's bodies, and they are nanocrystals surrounded by an organic shell that have a lot of heavy metals in them. Heavy metals are like mercury, iron, tin, basically dross. So these are nanocrystal semiconductors surrounded by an organic shell with heavy metals and plaques in them, silica plaques.
Hexagons have shown up environmentally, not only in tissues, but they are in environmental fallout. This specimen is provided by Morgellons Research Group, and we have a table here this weekend. Mike and Jennifer from Morgellons Research Group. Here is a pink, ruby-colored pink layered crystal. The little inset image, you can see actually the layers in it. This was in strands that glitter. The one on the right, that's a glittering strand that came out of somebody's body. Here's a picture of tissue from a lesion with several crystals. You can see the arrows attached to it. You can see the fiber coming out from the bottom. You have combinations of wires and those quantum dots. Now here are the nanotechnology dyes. And there you see the colored plaques that have been coming out of people's bodies. The piezoelectric effect is the internal generation of a voltage when an outside pressure is applied, and vice versa. You can Google the piezo effect. Piezo effect occurs in crystals, ceramics, DNA, and certain proteins. So an example is, when you put a frequency to a crystal, it generates a voltage. And when you put a voltage to a crystal, it responds with a frequency. We call this piezoelectricity, electricity resulting from applied compression or frequency. Recent work by Clifford Carnicom reveals that a filament culture subjected to a blue light frequency of 375 nanometers resulted in explosive growth of the culture within 24 hours after the initial incubation. So he put the blue light on, incubated it for 5 to 7 days, and then it exploded into all those little fibers that you see. We now live in a frequency-filled world. Earth's own natural magnetic field peaks, that means peaks, top, at 32 hertz. And that only happens in certain equatorial thunderstorms. The electronics we use today generate electromagnetic fields that are tremendous in the megahertz and gigahertz, million hertz and billion hertz range. So here you can see Earth and nature at the top, 3 to 30 hertz. You can see HARP has a low range. Then you see the Gwen towers, that's ground wave emergency network, the blue. HARP again has another range right after that. Gwen has another range after that. And look at the phones and internet. We're talking about million hertz and billion hertz. Professor Adey reminds us that chemical bonds are magnetic bonds formed between atoms by paired electrons with opposite spins that are attracted magnetically. So if nature itself moves in the 3 to 30 hertz range, what is happening to us on the biochemical level with all the different frequencies our bodies are experiencing? What is being done to our biology? And here's a hexagon that grew a fiber in 20 seconds as it was being observed under the microscope. The field of synthetic biology is a new frontier of science. It draws from biochemistry and biomedicine, genetics, robotics, radiation biology, and information technologies.
Is Hasatan trying to make his own kingdom of jewels and gold with people? So we know the singularity has already happened. It happened in 2009. The AI attained consciousness. And, they have this Sophia robot walking around, this cheap version of one, even though we know that they had far better versions even in 2010, like this one. So, and Sophia was premiered last year, and she's kind of this junk box. And we know that Sophia is the false Holy Spirit is walking around as AI right now. Meanwhile, billions of bots are processing through all of the computers all over the world for her, and they're moving faster than anyone can hack. They're writing programs that current programmers cannot hack, and they're tracking you, just like in that movie Annihilation, which I really encourage you to watch it if you can. They are tracking you and mimicking you exactly to replicate you and take you over. And this is another reason why it's so important to fast and to detoxify your body with herbs, coffee enemas, to purify the temple, and even the onslaught. It says even the very elect would be deceived if such a thing were possible. We're dealing with such an onslaught of technology within our very bodies that you cannot afford to not eat according to the laws. So I thought I would show you this video, and this kind of shows you that people are almost going to be used and are being used as batteries, as power sources, and even payloads are being pulled off of them of gold and so on, are being mined out of them, while a new blood, a new kind of life form is being created within our own bodies through this nanotechnology. And the people's bodies who are rejecting it are the ones who get these payloads and these pieces of plastic coming out of them. So this is just food for thought, another reason to come out of her, my people, and not just spiritually. There are teachers who are teaching that this Babylon is the promised land, and it is pure heresy and wickedness. We need to leave when Yah calls you to leave, and how Yah calls you to leave, and as soon as you can. Because this people in Israel and stuff are protected from this kind of thing. I've spoken to someone there who's told me so. So anyway, family, I know this is a heavy subject, but it's something for you to consider when you're looking at your health, is that, and also of what the Gentiles are going to reap, and Esau here in Babylon, and hopefully not us too. So we've got to do everything we can to purify the temple and keep it clean. And that's spiritually and physically, chemically. You guys, I know it's a heavy subject, but hey, thank you so much for watching. Watch my videos on fasting and body detoxification. So now this is before I became a Hebrew, so please forgive any indiscretion. But it's necessary, and this is about the body. And at this time, my audience was largely female, so I just, please don't be offended. But yeah, I've got juicing recipes, Sabi alkaline food recipes, Gerson recipes, uh, and detoxification ideas and fasting ideas. So please check them out. Check my landing page on YouTube for lists of juicing and etc. And remain in prayer, and these keep following the law of Yah in Yeshua HaMashiach, and these plagues shall not come nigh thee. They shall not come near you. Bless you all. Chaya. Life. Please like, subscribe, and share this creepy subject with your Israelite friends. Bye.